Bullying warning.
Bullying warning.
First, I got something I want to say. Fucking April Fools. You thought you were getting 2 episodes in March?
No way.
Think again. You get 1, you'd be lucky. You got a tier list.
Yeah, that's all you need.
That counts for like 5 episodes.
It was like a 3+ hour tier list.
Yeah,
it was very long.
We had to recover from that. So we've been,
sleeping for 20 days.
We had to hibernate.
Yeah.
But,
the sunshine has come out. The snow is gone.
Yeah, I've also been playing in-person Commander again at the game shop, and that's it's pretty taxing, like physically and mentally. And surprisingly, I've met multiple pretty normal people.
That's surprising.
Isn't that kind of surprising? That's shocking. Like, you wouldn't think.
Yeah, one thing that when I don't work out anymore, I need to start again. But when I would work out, I would make sure not to work out on the same day that I play cards because, like you were saying, Eli, it's physically taxing. But also because you got to set a good example and not be a sweaty man. You got to take a shower before you go play cards. It's important.
Yes, please, everyone, do not stink at the game store, because it's not like you smell that bad, but it compounds with every other person in there, and it gets very hot in there too.
Yeah,
with
usually
all those
the
people.
ACs don't work perfectly, and fans.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what your guys' game shops are like, but ours actually has pretty good AC, and like they'll crack open the door even sometimes, but you pack enough big sweaty nerds into one space,
it's gonna get bad.
And some people smell a little bit bad.
Yeah, and I even Magic. I started playing a little bit of Yu-Gi-Oh recently, and I think Yu-Gi-Oh is a card game that's even more associated with like bad hygiene for its events.
Spencer, what would you say? What's the smell like quality comparison between Magic players and Yu-Gi-Oh players?
In my experience, I think Magic players have a leg up, if only slightly. But I do think that the Yu-Gi-Oh experience is a little bit more smelly, like you were saying.
That is a bad sign to be smellier than Magic players. I know this is a dead meme. We riff on like people doing like the Magic like dead memes a little bit, but really like this is one that's just true and one that I personally feel very passionate about because and this is probably not a very hot take, but a lot of people do say the thing of like it kind of makes it hard for people to get into the hobby because they like go to the game shop and they're like, oh my god, this is just gross and uncomfortable and these people are fucking weird and they smell weird. It's like, just be normal-ish, okay? Be yourself, but follow the norms of society, please.
So going and playing cards, I think, like I was saying about Yu-Gi-Oh, like when I started to play, I went for my first time, I made sure to be extra cleanly, even more so than a normal person would be, because I had to not contribute.
Well, you got to be extra cleanly and extra friendly.
Yes.
Because, man, you're going to need to put off a good vibe if you want to be making some friends at the game store.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to. And I think I've been doing an okay job trying to keep up that energy, kind of put on the mask.
Yeah, the I'm fine, happy face mask.
It's hard sometimes, but good people make it easier.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some people are easy to interact with, and I've been fortunate in that. So that actually inspired today's topic, Spencer, is been playing more at the game shop, and sometimes you play it with strangers and you kind of just expect to get pub stomped. Mm-hmm. You know that feeling? Like you meet somebody. We had that happen to us recently, kind of, I feel like. A little bit. Like we could have stopped him, I think, but we just not
I mean, like we purposely didn't have like a big Rule Zero discussion, but I feel like, personally, in my opinion, I feel like if you forego the Rule Zero discussion, your first inclination shouldn't be to bring out your strongest, like, CDH
I think
deck.
You should aim low, right? Like, I mean, we kind of just have that opinion of, like, it's never going to work. Like, having that pre-game discussion is just going to usually waste some time, but you maybe say what deck you want to play, maybe, like, a vague idea. You say a little something.
Yeah.
And then I think you said, Spencer, like, just play whatever makes you happy.
Yeah, and so it's not really his fault entirely for, like, bringing out, like, a stronger deck, but, like, you know, I'm just saying, like it be like that sometimes, right? Like,
yeah, just when somebody plays turn 1 Mana Vault in their Keurig Son of Yawgmoth deck,
it's a little bit of a...
I'm like, oh, okay.
Like, it's okay, and, like, no, there aren't super hard feelings. I know we're bringing it up now. Like, there's no hard feelings or anything. It's just like a...
No, he didn't do anything wrong there, just...
It's a bit of a...
On a couple of games that I played, I think the week before that or 2 weeks before that. You weren't there, Spencer, but I was playing with my friend Matt, who's getting back into Commander, and he used to play a lot of Modern.
Mm-hmm.
But he built a casual Gore Claw deck, and he's trying to build some more decks now. But I played with him and a couple of strangers who were pretty nice people. We played one 5-player game, which I wasn't thrilled
too
about.
Keen on, yeah.
But we played a 5-player game and then a 4-player game, and so the subject today and what I want to talk about is the idea of sometimes there might be cards you play that are a little stronger than you realize, and just like put in a little bit too much work. Like you might think like, oh, this is my powered down deck, but then you just kind of clean sweep a couple of games, and you're like, oh, what happened here? Like, what was the I thought I was trying to like do a better thing for like other people, make this more fun to play against.
Especially like there's cards that like when I say high power, I don't mean like CEDH level, right? I'm saying like strong, like maybe like Game Knight's tier commander, like good built decks. There are cards that like just don't do anything in those kinds of games. Like they always underperform. They're slow, stuff like that. But in a meta that's a little bit more casual, these cards can like you were saying, Eli, like kind of going unchecked, just win a game on their own, or like shut people entirely down. And that's like, you wouldn't expect that.
Yeah, these would be the casual killers.
Yep.
So something we're going to talk about today, and this is a term used pretty frequently in the Commander community, and I think it's usually used pretty derogatorily, but that would be Battlecruiser Magic.
Yeah. I don't even know what that means, honestly. Like, I mean, I kind of do, but like, it's poorly defined, I think.
Yeah, I think everyone has a slightly different idea of what that means, but my understanding, what I think the most common understanding of that is a kind of commander where you're not really playing much interaction. Mm-hmm. It's kind of just like you're putting things out. You make your big battle cruiser, I make mine, and we smash them against each other.
Yeah, like in Limited, how you'll have like board stalls where like you can't attack because there's no profitable attacks. Mm-hmm. That's like Battlecruiser Magic, except at some point someone just swings all out and is like Lamau. No, that's a bit of a slight against Battlecruiser Magic, and I don't mean to do that. That's not intended.
Yeah, because the one thing I noticed after these 2 games that I played, I mean the 5-player game, we had the 5th guy, and he was pretty nice. He was playing a Sultai Volrath deck that clones people's stuff. And I got the opportunity to knock somebody out pretty early because I was playing my Shadrick Silverquill deck and I had flying and double strike. And somebody at the next table over, they came over and said to this guy, "Hey, if one of you guys is done after this game, can you come and join us so we have a 4th?" And I was like, "Okay." Killed him, and he was pretty okay with it. We kind of had a little fight. I had to use some removal to get through him, but we took him out. And then after that, just nobody really played any interaction. There were no board wipes.
Yeah, but like in a higher power level game, maybe something as simple as like some card advantage source and like removal spells would not be enough to win a higher power game. But in a low power game, you could just kind of sometimes you can just kind of like cut people off of doing anything with like a couple edict effects or something, right?
Yeah, and there's a lot of cards I think you play, and even in that Battlecruiser setting, you think like, well, if everyone teams up against me, if I get to be the threat, in Battlecruiser, their 3 like giant board states should be able to compete with mine. But we kind of wanted to talk about some of the cards that might kind of tip the scales there a little bit and be the exception to that rule, because it really got to a point in both these games. I think the second game, my board was just so massive that like I think I had more non-land permanents in play than all of my opponents put together, or close to.
And for the most part, I think we're going to try to talk about cards that are generally not very good in a more powerful setting, right? Like cards that you wouldn't, that you are maybe it's like a pet card or something, and you'd like it underperforms in a higher power level, but in a lower power level, it just like wrecks house, right?
Right, and that's the thing is, I would play a lot of these cards in my lower power deck, thinking, well, these don't cut it in the high power games, so if I put this in my weaker deck to play against strangers and people at Paradox or the card shop, then
they'll be fine, right?
They should be fine, right?
Like, they could be able to deal with it. Like, it's not that bad. But, it'd be like that sometimes, that it's just...
Apparently they're a little stronger than you might think.
Yeah. So why don't we talk... I know you were talking earlier, Eli, about, like, Battlecruiser, but also another word that people use is casual, right? Yeah. And I think that's maybe used less derogatorily than Battlecruiser. I think a lot of... Or maybe it's that people have embraced the term casual. People have, like, made it their own kind of thing.
Well, as Shivam would say,
yeah,
casual is a mindset, not a power level.
Sure. And that's probably true, but I've seen a lot of other content creators kind of embrace casual as, like, a defining characteristic. Like, they'll, like, maybe their name is... They have casual in their, their content name, or, like, maybe they're like, that's what I play casual Magic, right? Like, it's... But, like, what typically... I know you can't... Like you said, Eli, it's a mindset. But let's kind of put a couple things on the table for what that probably means. And I think the biggest thing would be, like you said earlier, less interaction. Probably less, like, really good, efficient win conditions. So, like, maybe the obvious, like, default would be combat, right? But maybe something wacky besides that, like, I don't know, like getting what's the mana, the card that you get to 100 counters to win, something like that, maybe,
Oh yeah, Helix Pinnacle.
Yeah, something wacky or combat or
something along those lines. I saw a tweet from CAG member Kristen Emily. Is that her last name?
I think so.
But yeah, Kristen from the CAG, big Boros fan. She was talking about her Angel deck, and she was saying something along the lines of how she feels like explosiveness is like a new category you should measure for your deck. You know how people measure like spot removal card, draw card advantage. And she was saying, I think she used to have a mono white Angels deck, but she switched it to an Orzhov one and
because they had
Selesnya one because she wanted to be more explosive.
And that is probably, I think, a good thing to think about for casual. Less explosive, right? Casual, I would define that.
I feel like casual Battlecruiser Magic, it's not big explosive turns. Like, I play 10 things and I take a 5-minute long turn.
Like, it doesn't feel like a casual deck if you're going, like, Mana Flare and then, like, comboing off some stuff. Not comboing, but you know what I mean? Like, I play a Mana Flare for 20 mana and doing crazy stuff.
It's more, I play 4-drop, 5-drop, 6-drop.
Maybe a ramp piece and then a 7-drop,
And that should feel casual, right? But I feel like we play decks like that, and sometimes the cards getting played are just not conducive to that.
Yeah. So another thing for casual is, probably slower starts, less early ramp, longer games probably, I'd say. Mm-hmm. Because, like you were saying, Eli, like that Battlecruiser kind of thing, you kind of have to slam your board into other people, and if you both have boards, you can't always just go in for a kill, right? You have to trade things.
Even best case scenario, nobody has blockers. How big are your creatures that you're able to take out 3 opponents
in one turn? It's not going to be pretty.
It's not going to happen. Like, even if you have like a clear path through, it's still going to take some time. So that naturally adds more turns to the game.
Generally less efficient cards, probably more pet cards. Tapped lands probably are more common in casual. This isn't to say that tap lands are always bad in a higher power level. Like, there's certainly outside, like, ignoring, like, obvious monetary decisions, there are some tap lands that are, they have advantages and stuff that make them better. Like, you and I like bounce lands. I think they're pretty solid, especially in Boros colors. Maybe a little bit less outside, but...
Spencer, do you feel like there's still a large portion of the Commander playing community, like maybe on the more casual side, that thinks the idea of completely, like, hedging out, like, moving away from tap lands, that they think that's a little too spiky? I think there might be people who are kind of in that camp of, like, it's not that big of a deal to have a land come into play tapped. And I don't know if I can say they're wrong. I think that's a fair, especially because, like, I think the biggest point in their favor is, like, that tapped lands are just so much more accessible, right? And, like, more cards, I can build more decks, right? And like you said, they oftentimes do have a little utility on them. I think there's people who play tap lands, but I don't think there's very many people just playing, like, guild gates anymore.
Like, even worst case, like, life lands it's something. People will joke, like, haha, I gained a life, but, like, I I think at least once in my life I have played a Lifeland and survived an attack because of it. Like I think it's happened in a Commander game, not just a standard or something.
Yeah.
So it's not the worst thing, and Skylands are obviously okay. I tend to not play them a lot, but they're not bad. But yeah, just to the whole point of the talking this is that there's probably more tapped lands in casual decks, right?
Yeah.
Just to say slower starts, right?
Sometimes you'd be watching a Commander gameplay video and you see somebody go tap land into bounce land into third tap land, and you think, oh my god, this is painful for me to watch.
Especially when they play their bounce land and don't know they have to bounce a land to their hand, right? No shade.
That'd be a pretty good land. Do you think? Well, that would definitely be a tap land people would play.
A tap land that adds 2 mana and doesn't bounce a land to your hand.
And stronger Magic. Maybe that's the future of tap lands. That's what they got to do to make people play them. Like how they're always saying, "What do we have to do to make a good 3-mana mana rock?"
Yeah,
and they've done some pretty good ones lately, but
do you think so?
Gotta be a little pushed.
I'm trying to think like how good this is a man. It's 15 minutes and we haven't even gotten to the. I mean, we have gotten to the topic, but not super hard. But I don't mind.
We're looking at it from a distance.
Just another question to ask you because I'm curious what your thoughts are here. Mm-hmm. So I think in higher power, like I don't want to give a number or anything, but like let's say Command Zone kind of Game Night's kind of Magic or whatever, right? Like,
which can either be pretty strong or like some of the weakest shit.
Yeah, it's hard to.
But usually, I feel like if Josh is in the game, it leans stronger.
Let's say a Joshy Kwai deck. How about that?
Yeah.
People still do be playing like the 3-color tap lands. I feel right. Like
people love the Triomes.
Opal Palace and Triomes. The Triomes are obviously better, right? Because they have the cycling on them.
But like the Khans of Tarkir or the Shards of Alara Trilands.
I think people still play those. Do you see that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would if I had like a certain kind of 5-color deck, like maybe more budget. I think I would.
I think I wouldn't generally, but like what I'm saying is, if like people are playing those kinds of tap lands, like how good do they need to be for people to actually play them? Because I don't think that the 3-color tap lands in like a 3-color deck or a 4-color deck are particularly great. Like they're all right, but like I'm just trying to feel like if people are willing to play those but not like play like Scrylands, like what?
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
I'm a real sucker for Evolving Wilds and Terramorphic Expanse. If I have even the slightest way to
synergy with them,
use them a little. Like, I've got Sun Titan in maybe not like that low.
Sure,
but
like you've got.
I've got a Splendid Reclamation in my deck, and I've got landfall triggers. I'll do it.
Let's. I don't want to mention any green cards because I know you're kind of allergic. But like, let's say Felidar Retreat, right? And you want to make some 2/2 cats with your landfall. That's the card, right?
Yeah, it's the white enchantment.
Yeah. There's a reason for it.
It's a nice healthy landfall trigger.
Yeah,
card's pretty good.
Honestly, I feel like with those kinds of things in mind, like like you said, Sun Titan and stuff like that. I feel like Terramorphic Expanse and Evolving Wilds are kind of, to some extent, maybe better than like a 3-color tapped land or something that doesn't have card types, right? Because obviously the Triomes have card types, or land types.
Yeah, I like the those kind of tapped fetches, or the really cheap ones, because they allow you to do something in Magic that feels very tricky and can oftentimes be very like expensive to pull off on like a budget.
You like fetch lands, right? Yeah. So that's nice, but not to get too bogged down on tap lands and stuff like that. That could be a whole topic in the future. But why don't we get into talking about some of these cards that we would categorize as casual killers?
Yeah. So the first topic we have here, the first
type of
category, are onboard tricks, and we put this down because one of the things I had in the second game I played, which again, both these games, I think I was the only person to play a board wipe, and yeah, it wasn't even like that impact. Like it was good for me, so nobody like interacted with me really. But I played the card Profane Procession, which if you don't know, it's a really cool card. It seems like it shouldn't be very good, but it's a 3-mana Orzhov enchantment, and you can pay 3 and a white and a black, and exile target creature, and then as soon as you have 3 or more creatures exiled with the Profane Procession, it turns into it's like one of the Ixalan flip lands.
Flips into a land that taps for any color.
Yeah, it taps for any color, and you can pay 4 and tap it, and put one of those creatures you exiled into play under your control.
Yeah.
And this card just like, it sort of makes it so it's, if anyone's thinking, oh, maybe I'll mess with them, and you got 5 mana up.
Yeah.
They're not gonna.
There are a lot of cards like that are just like it doesn't seem good at all, and I would even say it's not very good in general.
That's 8 mana to exile.
8 mana
your
to
first
exile
creature.
one creature, right? And
Yeah.
then for 2 it's what 11, 12, 11 or no 13. Math is hard. 13th.
Yeah,
It's really
it's
inefficient.
a lot of mana.
And like we're pretty much I don't know about you, Eli, but when I think of that card, I pretty much discount the flip part, right? Like maybe late in the game.
I've done it maybe twice, and actually that part of it's almost kind of a downside because it means once you get to your third like non-commander creature,
Yeah.
it'll flip into the land and you can't exile more stuff.
That's the kind of nice thing you were saying, though. If you exile someone's commander, they probably don't want to leave it in exile under this card because like they're never going to get it back or anything.
Yeah, so it just becomes pretty much, and this is usually how I've used it, is it's like permanently keep a commander out of play.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's not efficient, but it's really a slow and pretty strong form of card advantage, just being able to zap out people's stuff.
And I think in casual games, people are much more likely to make those kinds of deals. Like they'll think like, okay, that profane possession, it's not a problem for me now because I'm agreeing not to attack them, so it'll never be a problem for me. Excuse me, kind of thing. Where like it's if a person has like onboard tricks, like, and they're able to just sit there like forever, having them up all the time and using them at their earliest convenience when they untap, like that person is probably winning the game. Like, I know, Eli, we watched a Commander gameplay series recently where, you know, someone was playing like a lot of tap creatures, right? My boy PJ playing his tap creature tribal.
Oh yeah.
And like you don't like someone goes to attack him, you can threaten them with things that you have on the board. You can show them like, if you attack me, like it's not like even like a threat. It's just like, I will kill your thing with this thing I'm going to tap it anyway. But if you don't attack them either, they're also just going to keep getting more and more ahead every turn.
Yeah, you're getting value no matter what. So I'm of the opinion that you have to make them use that stuff.
Yeah.
But it feels so
It's
bad.
bad,
Like
yeah.
I felt like a freaking bastard, man, when I played that card, Spencer, because I was like, wow, I'm just a fucking terrorist right now, and I'm holding the game hostage.
It's in some power levels, like no one can do anything to you at that point. Like they'd have to either like team up like 2 or 3 players at once to do things like in one turn, like because you can't kill everyone's stuff right away, or find a way to kill your enchantment. And it's doubly so because I know you play like ramp spells and stuff in your deck, so you're gonna be able to have the 5 mana up if you need to late in the game.
Yeah, I just kept passing and holding it up. I mean, that's one of my favorite things in Magic to do, especially Commander, is just pass the turn with mana open and
your commander draws a card every combat, so you're able to like just you
keep accruing advantage. And
yeah,
I felt especially bad because one of the guys was playing an Infect deck. He was playing the mono green Finn the Fangbearer that gives your Death Touch creatures, like not Infect, but at
poison or something.
When they hit somebody, they get 2 poison counters, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And he hadn't done too much, but he got to kind of like a somewhat threatening board state and played the worm that gives your green creatures Intimidate.
Yeah, the 6 mana or 7 mana or something.
And the other 2 players were playing green, so Intimidate, like, not great.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, well, I know you could swing at me, man, but if you do, I'm just going to zap your worm.
Yeah.
Like, I told him that, and he's like, oh, man, he seems so sad. He just couldn't do anything.
So I would say, like you were saying, Eli, this card, Profane Procession, really was kind of like the catalyst card for this topic, so I wanted to mention it first, right?
Yeah, because, right, like, are we wrong? That card seems kind of bad, right?
And, like, I know I
love it, but...
I know you've played it in, like, some higher games, and it's not good, right? Maybe you spend 8 mana and get one thing, right? And it's not...
Yeah, it's not very impressive. Like, it can do a little work, but it's not...
It's not actively, like, better than probably, like, a regular removal spell, right?
I feel like if you play that in a higher power level game, they're just gonna... Maybe you'll get one creature and then they destroy it, and then it feels very bad.
Because then you also... Yeah, like... I think for the most part, like, I get it. It's not the same as a removal spell. It's like an insurance plan, right? Because, like, you're going to get multiple cards, you're going to maybe get to put them into play. But, like, I think in 9 times out of 10, it's just going to be worse than, like an Anguish Unmaking or something, right? Like, it's just going to be, like, much worse. Almost all the time. But... And that's coming from someone who likes onboard tricks. I think, like, cards like Seal of Cleansing and stuff are really cool and not actually that bad.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah. It's weird. That's a casual killer. As they say.
Just these cards that allow you to keep taking game actions without actually having to spend cards out of your hand.
Yeah.
So that you can, even if it's in a 3v1 situation, you don't have to commit like cards out of your hand to do stuff. Like one that I like a lot and I think is kind of, whereas Profane Procession is a reactive card, a more proactive card would be something like Luminarch Ascension, which is really strong white card.
So Eli, I know you in my history with you. I don't know if you have that in any decks right now.
I have it in my Thalia deck.
Okay, because I remember in the past, like a long time ago, when Commander was a different game, maybe like 2017 or something, 2018 maybe. You would be playing Luminarch Ascension like to very good use, and maybe it's because you were in a more casual setting and people weren't able to hit you, after playing it. I mean, still they can't sometimes now these days, but like. That card has done work over the years from what I've seen.
Oh, yeah. If you can... I think I've won a couple of games just by getting a turn 2 Luminarch Ascension, hitting land drops, and not having anyone remove it. All you have to do is make 2 mana 4/4s.
Every turn forever.
That's insanely efficient.
4/4 flyers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes angel tokens.
And you just start beating down. I feel like if I had that in one of the games I'm describing from the game shop, those would have been much quicker games because that card is very...
Well, yeah, like what does like a lack of a deck without a lot of removal, or maybe not like crazy accesses to fight you on other than combat do against that, right? Like from what I've seen you do, Eli, like you have 5 or 4 mana up, and then like if something bad happens to you, you maybe have a reactive spell to cast in your hand, and if anything else happens, like maybe they attack with some creatures, you pay 2 mana, make an angel, and trade with it, or you go to your turn, make 2 more angels, have 2 more blockers or attackers to use, then have all your mana up again. It's really good.
Yeah, and those angel. One thing people talk about in white is the lack of explosiveness or like haste, but like getting those instant speed angels is kind of like it's like a flash creature.
Yeah.
It's effectively haste on the end step. So.
And 2 mana angel is a very good deal. Like that is like good tempo, really good tempo.
Man, Spencer, how many cards are there, especially white cards from that long ago, that you look back and like, man, they still hold up? Like, because to me that card is like
that's really old too,
on the level of like Serra Ascendant maybe.
Well, yeah, I mean, assuming you can get it going, which if you play on turn 2,
on turn 2, yeah, like Serra Ascendant has the same problem where like later in the game you might not have the life requirement for Serra Ascendant, it might be bad, but on turn 2, like that's one of the cards. It's one of the I refer to them as the holy swords handed down by ancient WotC to fight against the bug deck. The tool that the white mage has to cut them down.
Well, another thing that, like, maybe similarly, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but I just to talk about another card, another thing that Luminarch Ascension does, I think, that's powerful in higher power, but also especially so in casual, is it's kind of like what I call like an army in a can kind of card.
Yeah.
Where it's like one card that is able to generate multiple bodies, usually a lot, and a lot of power and toughness for its mana cost. Like a good example of an army of a can card would be like Grave Titan, but that's one that's like probably pretty good in regular, you know what I'm saying, with air quotes here, Commander too. But that one's not, people know Grave Titan's a pretty good card, right?
Yeah.
But another card that I think you and I like, Eli, that is probably definitely a casual killer, I would say, is the card Thieving Amalgam from the Commander 2018, I believe. It was one with Anji
deck, right?
Is that 2018? I think that's 2018.
I believe so.
Yeah.
I think.
Thieving Amalgam is a big monkey snake or something? Snake monkey. And it does that kind of like, not Grave Titan. What's the Saproling guy that does that? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it does the effect that I like a lot as far as token generation, is giving you something on every player's upkeep, and I think that's an awesome like commander-based effect, like a way to do that. Is on each player's upkeep step, you manifest the top card of their deck with Thieving Amalgam, and then whenever a creature you control but don't own dies, its owner loses 2 life, and you gain 2 life.
Yeah. And another thing with that card that's really interesting that kind of makes it that interesting casual killer is... Sorry, casual killer. I don't want to appropriate that.
We've been saying killa too much.
Yeah.
We say it's like you're the Soul Ring killa, Spencer.
Yeah. Well, that card's also just like huge. It's like a flying...
It's a 6/7.
Is it flying or does it ground?
I don't think it flies, okay, but it's big.
It's big.
It's expensive, though. It's 7 mana, but...
It comes with a team.
I mean, in Battlecruiser, you get the 7 mana.
But the thing that I like about this card is that, like Luminarch Ascension, it's also kind of a mana outlet, because assuming you hit at least one creature, like let's say it sticks around for one time on the board, like that's going to be 3 cards. And
yeah, you could flip them up if they're creatures. Yeah,
yeah, I think probably a third of people's decks is creatures usually, right? Something like that.
Especially in this particular setting, you're playing more creatures on average.
And like you said, Eli, I know people play a lot of ETB creatures, but there are a lot of creatures that have good abilities or just are like, kind of big, right?
Yeah, another card like Thieving Amalgam, that's the Army in a Can. This is a card that I think is almost, I feel like, synonymous, or like very like, you think of it when you think of Battlecruiser, is Rampaging Baloths.
Yeah, that's a good one.
The landfall, make a 4/4. And one of my opponents actually, like when I say this game, when I talk about these games, I'm not saying that like my opponents weren't, it's not that they weren't doing things. They had big board states too, and they were doing a lot of stuff. It's just there was a certain kind of dynamic happening where it was just big board states and creatures. Like my opponent to my right, she was playing the Gitrog monster, but it was non-combo Gitrog, and she played a Rampaging Baloths. She made a fuck ton of beasts.
Yeah, no, Rampaging Baloths isn't like a bad card in any sense of the word, but I feel like in regular Commander, I don't mean to say that, but whatever, you know what I'm trying to say.
Well, when we say regular Commander, I think it's the sad thing to specify, but Commander these days,
it's power creeped, right?
It's really, yeah, it's fast, and it's a lot of combo and fast mana, and everyone just feels like they have to do that because we all got these tiny little baby egos that if we lose our fair share of games, we're thinking, man, we got to power up our decks and prove ourselves that way, and that's how it be.
It feels like Rampaging Baloths a lot of the time takes a back seat to like Avenger of Zendikar, I would say. Mm-hmm. Like that feels like that fits the slot, and a lot of people would rather do that.
Yeah.
So, but Baloths is a great card, like you said, Eli. I mean, 6 mana 6/6 with trample with serious upside is like, how could that seems good to me, right?
Yeah, I think it gets discounted because you might think, well, it's 6 mana 6/6. A lot of people would say, like, I know the nitpicking nerds had like a whole video on these like cards you shouldn't be playing anymore, like when they
like a year ago
when
or
they
something.
had the Grave Titan take, like, and Kristen got mad at them.
Yeah,
but I think one of their cards they talked about was Rampaging Baloths, because these are cards that are 6 or more mana that don't immediately do anything.
Yeah,
but if left unchecked, they're pretty impressive.
I mean, yeah. So in some sense, Rampaging Baloths is kind of like a 7-drop, right? Because you want to play it, then play a land immediately.
Yeah, you want to have that trigger right away, because otherwise it's just 6 mana 6/6.
Yeah, but like what we were talking about earlier, Eli, like we were talking about like Evolving Wilds and stuff, and like fetch lands, like I don't like 6 mana, and then you like play your fetch land, and then you fetch with it, like you get 14 of power, 6 of which is trample, and with the potential to make more. Like, you could even have a fetch land sitting around from another turn that you didn't crack it because you had it in your hand. You can get 3 4/4s. Like, it's big game.
Yeah, I mean, if I didn't have that enormous board state in that second game, I'm sure she would have killed me. But man, it sucks to say if you've got like, I think she had close to 10 4/4s and still couldn't get in at me because I had that Thieving Amalgam and all these 2/2s and everything.
Yeah. And especially, like, if you have, like, a haste enabler or something, like, I'm imagining, like, a scenario. I'm trying to think of, like, what other cards allow you to, like... Because let's say 7 mana, because, like, Rampaging Baloths, then play a fetch land and crack it is 7, right? I mean, I know you have 1 mana left over, but let's just say 7. Mm-hmm. What other, like, 7 drops have the ability to, in one card, and I know you got a land too, it's another card, whatever, but in one card, present, like, 12 power of haste? Like, what other cards can do that? Like, when I say of haste, I mean giving them haste. Like, 12 power attackers for, like, 7 mana. Like, the thing that comes to my mind is, like, the Maelstrom Wander, but that's, like, 8, right? And that's just, like, a really good card. But that comes with haste, too, so... But you know what I'm saying?
That's a problem in itself. That's,
But, like, my point is, like, it's a lot of damage.
Yeah.
Like, I guess you could play, like, an Atarka, but that's 8 power. And 8 power flying trample. Like, I guess you could play, like, a double strike Atarka. Whatever. You know what I'm saying, though. It's a lot of bodies, okay? That's my point. And it's fast.
Well, and how many armies in a can make 4/4s?
That's true. Yeah. Garrett, my favorite, makes 4/4s.
He's pretty good.
Garrett is awesome. But yeah, let's go back to what we were talking about a little bit before, which was those onboard tricks. I think you can kind of maybe a little bit consider like this kind of card we were talking about an onboard trick, because you can if you have a fetch land up and you have a 6/6, that's kind of like an onboard trick to make a 4/4, right? You fetch with your fetch land and you make a 4/4.
Yeah.
A little bit. But kind of more on that profane procession kind of thing. We've got cards that have like tap abilities that do very big things, and usually these cards are like pretty expensive. but like Avatar of Woe, I think is like the iconic like commander card of like 2014.
Yeah, it's this big creature that taps and kills a thing.
And I don't think Avatar of Woe is a card that you see like almost at all in a higher level of play, but in a casual game where there's not going to be removal going around for it, that's just going to stop any aggression for turns on turns, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's why you don't see it, because like in a game where there's removal abound, right? Like you can't just leave an Avatar of Woe in play and hope like to have your commander stick around, right? Like it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I think one thing that can really give you the leg up in these Battlecruiser games or more creature-based battles is when you start playing the big creatures that also come in and kill your opponent's creatures.
Yeah.
Like, there aren't too many very repeatable ones, but one that we noted because I think we've both seen this card played, Spencer, and, like, our friends Big, like, Red-Green X,
like in
Big Timmy decks.
16 or something, like a long time ago, but yeah.
Something like Gruul Rage Beast, which is whenever it or another creature enters under your control, it gets to fight an opponent's creature.
Yeah.
So just it immediately being like a 2-for-1 creature. Like you see those all the time. You see like a Ravenous Chupacabra, Palace Jailer, stuff like that. Yeah.
But when they're big, right, it's different.
When they're big and then maybe also give you some additional benefit or like continuous like a version of that effect.
Like for example, you have a Gruul Rage Beast out and then you play like a I don't know what's a good example. Like something stupid like a Hamlet back Goliath.
Oh yeah.
Like,
oh boy.
Yeah,
it's a big boy.
It's just a big boy, and he's going to come in and kill someone's commander, because commanders usually aren't like 6/6s, right? Usually, I mean, some are, but like, there's a lot of commanders that are smaller that can't kill a 6/6 in a fight, right?
Yeah, and this actually might be a potential downside of some Battlecruiser decks, because I think a lot of Battlecruiser decks will be playing this sort of card because they figure, well, it's I'm not so interested in the fact that it does stuff to my opponents, but it's also a creature for me.
Yeah.
And that's the fun thing about it. So they'll play these cards, and that'll be their sole source of removal in their deck.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not mana efficient. It's usually not instant speed. And it's easily answered by a couple of other cards that people might not play so often. Like, I don't think people play Torpor Orb stuff like super often, but if they are,
yeah, it really messes you up.
Like, and your entire interaction package in your deck. For example, I was playing against a Sliver deck in the first game, and I played the card Sarah's Emissary.
Yeah.
And I chose to give myself and my creatures protection from creatures. And my 3 opponents, none of them had any way to deal with that. Because, well, the Sliver deck, she was playing the Overlord, I think it is, that can tutor them.
Yeah, and then what, not Harmonic Sliver. What, is it Harmonic Sliver that lets you sacrifice them, or is that the one that kills artifacts and enchantments?
Harmonic is the destroy artifacts or enchantments.
There's a Vindicate Sliver, right?
Yeah, there's a Vindicate Sliver, and it's like, well, what good are these cards going to do if everything has protection from creatures?
Yeah, and what is he going to do? What is she going to do? Like, just give them flying and attack? It doesn't deal damage to you.
So aside from Profane Procession, I'd like to dub Sarah's Emissary the other complete casual killer.
That one, though, I think is actually like kind of okay I think it's actually pretty good in maybe a higher power level. But yeah, that one definitely kills casual decks a lot more if they don't have instant speed or sorcery speed removal.
Well, in a world where creatures are the predominant creature type, a card that gives you and all your stuff protection from creatures is kind of like maybe the strongest card. Like if that was the format.
On top of a 7/7 attacker.
Yeah.
Because it will kill people eventually. It is big. And they can't block it because you have protection from creatures.
Like if we were just playing the kind of commander where nobody was playing instant speed spot removal or like board wipes and stuff, that card really like takes over the game. Like you cannot die with that out.
Yeah.
If they can't get through it. And that's what happened. I was down to like 8 life because somebody was playing Arjun the Shifting Flame deck, and they had Niv Mizzet out and got me real low, but didn't quite kill me.
And then they had like 20 insects and couldn't kill you, right?
They didn't have any insects. They just.
I was thinking of the scarab or the
scarab, the locust
god that you told me about another time.
Yeah, but yeah, they just did a bunch of damage, but didn't quite finish the job. And then I looked at my Sarah's Emissary and thought, oh no.
Yeah, oh no.
See what happens here. And I was fully expecting it because I didn't kill the guy, and I had to pass back to him for one more turn.
And
I
with
think.
Arjun, he's going to get to see like 20 cards at least.
Yeah, I was expecting him to draw into some kind of removal, and then he just didn't. He actually played an Enter the Infinite and drew his entire deck.
And then didn't have the mana.
And didn't have the mana left to do anything else, and just
yeah, because in a higher power level game, right? Like you might expect, like blue is going to be one of the blue and white probably are the colors that are going to be able to deal with a single target creature, like for 1 mana, right? Because white has like Swords and Path, and blue has Rapid Hybridization and Pongify. And you're going to think to yourself, okay, like there's a really good chance that a blue deck has one of these cards in the deck, right?
I think that's part of the thing that conditions you to think that these cards like Sarah's Emissary are so like mediocre and bad is just the fact that Modern Commander has these huge tempo swings. You can't afford to play 6 and 7 drops when somebody's just gonna either counterspell it for like 2 mana.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, then mana drain it, and then it's literally the worst thing.
The worst thing in the world. Did you play your Thieving Amalgam and then they mana drain it?
But the amount of 1 mana instant speed spot removal is insane. Like you have so many. There's so many options now.
Yeah. I guess there are a couple black ones, but those are usually a little bit harder to get by for 1 mana instant speed. But yeah,
Black's got the 0 mana one. They got the free ones.
Yeah, they got the free ones. That's true. Yeah, and then
what's the exile creature?
Oh no,
from the Ikoria decks.
Oh yeah, there's also Deadly Rollick.
Deadly Rollick. That's the one. Yeah,
Deadly Rollick. You got like Snuff Out kills a thing for some life. Dismember and stuff like that. It's not 0 and it doesn't kill everything.
Yeah, you got
but
Slaughter Pack. That's 3-ish. Yeah.
But you see what I'm saying, right? But like, they really do be like that, right? And yeah, like at a table where everyone's not holding those. Like I built one of my decks specifically to not use those. Like I have my Liesa 5 mana. They're both 5 mana. I gotta remind myself this.
The OG Liesa.
OG Liesa, yeah. One that costs 5 every time you play her. And I built this deck, and I just didn't put in like the 1 mana removal. I might put my removal in as I think I do have a generous gift in there, just because it's a catch-all. And then I've got my other removal is like creature-based removal or like some more expensive ones. So, and I did this like purposely because I built this deck to be kind of like my a little bit nicer deck, a little bit lower level, but also just because I wanted to put more cards that I liked in it. Because playing a Murderous Rider instead of a Swords of Plowshares, it's just a cool card, man. It's a cool card.
Yeah, you get to play with some stuff that you normally wouldn't because you think, well, I want to have this lower power level deck, and I'm going to try and tune it down a little bit. For example, I usually steer away from 3 drops or like more expensive cards, but in my Shadrix deck, I was like, whatever.
Whatever. I'll just play them.
It's going to be fun. They're going to be totally reasonable and like
boom, save your Rollenbach, get them, right?
But yeah, I guess apparently there's still it's tough to kick the spiky nature, Spencer.
It is tough.
But I did not intend for this to be the case. I guess maybe we both kind of because maybe do you feel like your Liesa's deck has ever done that where you play it and it feels a little too strong sometimes?
Well, I think so. The funny thing is like it's kind of built to be kind of worse, like more casually, but I still play it against like other people's like strong decks, and it can hang sometimes, right? And that's a sign of it probably being better than I think it is, right?
Yeah.
There's not like crazy fast mana or anything in that deck, but if you get, you can still, assuming a game goes long enough and slow enough, I can still generate like, I hit my land drops and play some value pieces, maybe some board wipes or something, or I have a very small reanimation package of like I said, like not the best reanimation spells, but I play like the one with flashback because it's kind of cool, and maybe like a 5 or 4 mana reanimation spell, not like 1 mana ones, because I wanted it to be a little worse. But yeah, it still can like put out like a Archon of Cruelty on like turn 4 or 5.
If you get up that Archon of Cruelty, I feel like that's that's definitely a casual killer.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Because if they're just playing like large, like very small amount of big threats, and that gets you, and then like it gets in for a swing. Man.
You start gaining life. They lose life. They discard 2 or just sack creature.
Yeah, I think they got to do both, right?
I think you gain 3 and draw a card, and then they discard a card, sack a creature, and lose 3. Yeah. I think it's really good.
I love that card. I need to get one of those.
By the way, I call this a casual deck, but I also play Mind Twist in it because I just love that card so much. So maybe I'm a bad person to.
Well, I think that's another good example of a card because like you wouldn't think like in more powerful commander, Mind Twist might not seem that great, and you're like, well, this might not cut it really.
Yeah,
because you kind of just get one person.
But
it's
I
not
just
very.
Yeah, I just want to play the card, man.
Yeah, like you just want to play it, but then you play it in that setting, and you're like, well, I'm doing this because I know it's fun for me, and it's not very good. But then you do it, and it just like takes somebody out of the game.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of a. I just bought a Mind Twist, and I wanted to play. And it's not super expensive; it's like $5 or something. But like, it's just a really cool card. I like it a lot. I don't know, man. I just want to play. It's like a Hymn to Turok for 3 mana, if you want it to be.
Well, Spencer, that leads me into a segue. But before I do that, did you want to say anything more about the casual killers?
No, I think we're good.
So you talking about Mind Twist and how much you love that makes me want to ask you, what do you think about Lord Xander?
Oh, the new
collector,
new
or whatever his name, the new Grixis guy.
Yeah,
because there's been a little bit of a hubbub on Magic Twitter about this guy.
So to not keep my opinion secretive and dance around it, I think that the outrage is a little bit overblown, as most outrage is going to be in most communities, right? That being said, it's probably not the most fun card, right, to play against, but I don't know. I don't really see it as that bad personally. Why don't you give me your opinion, Eli? Maybe that can help me flesh out what I think.
So I was talking about this card with some other friends over the weekend, and I was trying to think, what kind of board state does somebody have, or like how many cards in their hand do they have
where it's like really bad,
where this card actually feels that bad? Because obviously, yeah, it sucks, and people don't like specifically singling out one player in a game of Commander. I think that's mostly what has people upset about this card, is the idea that inherently is against the social contract.
Yeah.
But just for clarity, I'll read him out in case you don't know. He's a 7-mana Grixis, 6/6. He's Lord Xander the Collector, a Vampire Demon Noble. It says when he enters the battlefield, target opponent discards half their cards in their hand, rounded down. When he attacks, defending player mills half their library, rounded down. And when he dies, target opponent sacrifices half the non-land permanents they control, rounded down.
So, like, I feel like every part of that card, except for maybe, I guess, the mill part with Bruvac or whatever, is, like, kind of templated to not fully crush you, like, crush your opponents, because, like, let's say, like, and I get it, they have to be careful, because, like, Commander players will do, like, I'm going to blink it a bunch of times on my end step or whatever, or I'm going to, like, kill it and bring it back to life, so it comes in, like, it has a bunch of ETB triggers or dice triggers or something, right?
Yeah.
But, like, how, like, let's say you have a board of, like, 4 things, like, and they have it die twice. You lose 2 of them, then you lose 1 of them, and maybe you discard 3 cards, then you discard 1 card, right? Like, it's never going to get you out.
Right, so with that templating, the rounded down, it can never completely empty your hand or your board.
Yeah, you always can keep at least 1, right? I think, yeah, the problem is with, I think, this is funny, because I think the Bruvac, the Grandiloquent, or whatever his name is, yes. the mill commander, like, that's probably, like, I think the mill aspect of this card is, like, the least powerful, but it's probably also the worst, like, the least fun as well.
Well, yeah, so this is not a hot take, but milling half of somebody's library,
really bad.
That is, like, actively bad for you. Like,
your opponents, yeah.
Like you were saying, you play that flashback like Unburial Rites.
Yeah, I have multiple flashback cards in that deck. Like,
who's not playing some flashback cards?
Yeah.
Or something that they care about. Like, I've got a couple decks maybe that could care less. But even in that case, like, even if they mill half my deck and I have no way to utilize that, that's really, like, not that bad. I know some people like to see, like, somebody mill half their deck and they're like, oh, I got this really strong card. I milled that and I milled that. It's like, they were just as likely to not ever draw that card that game.
Yeah, like literally the same.
You literally did nothing. Like, that did not affect the board state. Milling is so bad. And the fact that it's half rounded down every time. So the first time, you might mill, like,
40 cards. I don't know.
Yeah, like a decent amount of cards. The next time,
20.
It's less and less and less.
Or
so it's
16 or whatever, yeah.
You're not, like...
It's not killing someone quickly with mill.
Yeah, like, that's not gonna... That itself is not going to mill somebody out.
You have to pair it with things, right?
If you have a bunch of other mill cards, then maybe that's a big chunk.
Like the first pun being a traumatize is probably the most impactful, right?
No, yeah, but even the good parts of this card, Spencer. Like, let's say by the time you play Lord Xander, because assuming it's a commander, and that's what the controversy's about.
Yeah.
So maybe you ramp a little bit. Maybe it's turn 5, 6.
Play him, and then what? Like maybe someone has 6 or 7 cards in their hand?
Yeah, so
Seven.
let's say somebody's got a full grip.
Yeah.
They're discarding
3
cards.
That's not that bad.
So you got 7 mana, 6/6, enters the battlefield, makes somebody discard 3 cards.
Mm-hmm.
Does that feel like a good card? Like that good so far?
No, on its own, that doesn't seem like... Well, especially because it's like single target, right? Like it's not gonna be super powerful to just like if it's discard 3, you can kind of think of that as like 1-for-1ing with the table a little bit.
And that's assuming a full grip. Now I know people are gonna see this and they're gonna want to think, well, by that point in the game, we're playing the kind of Magic where we're playing Josh Lee Kwai, JEDH.
You got 5 cards, maybe, right?
Well, they're thinking I might have like 10, 20 cards.
Oh,
in my
that's
hand.
what they're thinking?
Well, if you're Josh Lee Kwai, you're playing. Did you see Josh Knights? The new episode?
I did see the new episode of Josh Knights.
Yeah, see how big their hands were?
Yeah.
Drawing so many cards. They got Ristic Study. So that's, I think, what people want to think is they're going to play this and somebody's going to discard like 10 cards and, oh no, I've gone from 20 cards down to 10 cards. It's the worst thing in the world.
I think under that logic, if you have more than 7 cards and you get hit with a discard spell like this, I think that's a good thing, right? Like, if you have 10 cards in your hand, you should be discarding 5, right?
Feels like a pretty healthy thing, actually.
Yeah.
And then when it dies... Target opponent sacrifices half their non-land permanents.
I think that's probably the
strongest trigger.
I would say people probably see the discard and think that's the best part of that's like when I say I'm using best and worst in different ways. I think people see the discard part and they might be the most upset about that. But yeah, like you were saying, I think that the sacrifice the permanence part is probably the most strong part of it.
Right, but if I'm doing that to somebody, what does their board state have to look like for that to feel like it really like owned them? I feel like they're probably in a position where they need to have something happen to them.
Yeah, if you lose half of your things, run it down. So let's think of like a board state. Like, I know it's probably not good to say like, oh, late in the game because it is a 7-drop. But like in today's Commander, I guess you can cast a 7-drop on turn 4 or something, whatever, right? I guess.
Yeah,
that's what people say at least. But yeah, I get you saying that. Let's say you have like 2 mana rocks. A couple creatures, maybe an enchantment or something. Like, that's 5 things. Like, maybe you have more, maybe you have less. But, like, let's say it dies, and they make you sacrifice 2 things, right? Maybe get rid of your 2 mana rocks or something. And this probably isn't fair because I keep choosing odd numbers, and that's where the rounded down is better, right? So maybe if I said 4, it'd be worse. But you get what I'm saying. So, I guess that's an interesting thing to think about. Like, maybe this card is just, like... It seems worse than it is, right? Like, because the half thing and like non-lands, all those things, like it really is, and rounded down, there's a lot of safety measures in place, I feel, right?
Yeah, and I understand there's going to be a build of this deck where it's just entirely around getting him out, blinking him, recurring him, doing this pretty much every turn to like each opponent.
Yeah.
That's strong, right?
Yeah,
we can agree that's strong, but that's...
But you kind of have to do one at a time, right?
Yeah, like you gotta, like I'm thinking maybe somebody plays this and then they like have a sack outlet, they reanimate it, and maybe, let's say like worst case scenario, they hit all 3 opponents in one turn.
Or they give it Undying with like a sorcery or like that creature that gives you creatures Undying or something, right?
Yeah, I just feel like, man, if that's what somebody's doing with that much mana and that many cards to make that happen, I'm just glad to still be alive.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like if they could reanimate a Grey Merchant 4 times, right? Like, is that... I'm dead. Yeah,
I don't know. We'll have to see. I mean, maybe we'll have to try and build this deck.
Yeah, what kind of scares me is though I think this could be a pretty cool deck. Like in the sense, like cool meaning like. So if you guys know me, I love playing just like mid-range like good stuff decks. I'll call them mid-range, but mostly it's just like I don't have like a specific theme in mind. Maybe I'll have a couple sub themes, but like I'm just playing like good creatures, the good cards in those colors, stuff like that. So like maybe I call it like a Grave Titan deck, right? Where like Grave Titan is like it's just a good like body, it's going to kill people or something, right? Mm-hmm. This would be a good curve topper in that deck. Like you just play it and you get some value, make someone discard a couple cards, and then maybe if someone ends up killing it, like you can like you can maybe like make them lose a couple things. Like that seems pretty good. And that's how I would play it. But I feel like there's a lot of stigma around it now, like you were saying. Like, it's just the worst thing you can be doing. Yeah, so I don't know.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I don't see it. I think it'll be okay. I think life's going to go on.
With Lord Xander?
I mean, personally, Spencer, one of the things I was saying when I was talking to our other friends about this card is, when I see a card like this that is reactive and hurts your opponents, to me, in Commander, that's much more healthy than the other kind of Commander they make, where it's just like, it gives you such a significant resource advantage. Like, it gives you stuff.
Yeah,
proactive.
Like, this gives you a resource advantage, but it's not giving you things. It's taking away from that, right?
I feel like something along the lines of Chulane is much more, like, obscene to me.
Yeah, like, what if this card said, when it enters the battlefield, draw cards equal to half your
well, yeah, that's what I was saying. I was saying, like, reverse it. Like, say the modes are, enters the battlefield, double the amount of cards in your hand.
Well, draw half, right?
Yeah, or something like that.
You have 7, you draw 3, right?
Yeah, or if it was, like,
make treasures when it dies equal to, like, half of your...
or like, copy your non-land permanents, like...
Oh, yeah, whenever you play a kicker spell, make a copy of it or something, right? Like, that's the things they make. There's a card that does that. And it's not, like, that card in particular is not broken, but they do have, like, what's that, the Guide to Volo, right? Guide to Monsters, where you just copy all your creature spells, right? That's much more scary, I think, than Lord Xander.
I saw a surprisingly good tweet from somebody one time saying something that that resonated with me, because we've talked about this take before on the show, I think, how Simic decks are just a different, like, flavor of stacks, because instead of making people take shorter turns, you're just taking way longer turn.
Yeah, you could. That's funny. Like the black version might be like your opponent's discard a card, and the Simic version is you draw 3 cards.
Yeah, and honestly, I'll lose the card every time. I don't care. Like, people doing insane stuff like this is not that. So
yeah, I guess this is no tag grid, you know? Like, it doesn't just win that's the difference, I guess, with this card, is it doesn't just win the game on its own, whereas some other commanders that are really powerful feel like they win the game on their own. Like, this doesn't give you the method to kill your opponents.
Maybe, do you think this is like a whole problem
I guess it mills,
whole problem with the mindset of the more casual or Battlecruiser commander playing community is that they'll see something like this and be like, oh my god, that's busted, this is so bad for the format, and then they'll see something like Coma Cosmos Serpent and be like, wow, that really flies under the radar.
Oh, who was it that said that?
Professor.
Damn.
Or they'll just be like, oh, look at this new commander that draws cards whenever I sneeze. Like, it's so much fun.
I'm so excited.
Are we having fun?
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I'm with you there. All right, I wasn't sold when we started this when you asked me, because I hadn't really thought about it that much, but I think I'm pretty firmly in the camp of Xander isn't a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take Xander over a Maelstrom Wanderer any day.
Any day of the week. Oh my god. 10 times yes. I'll take Xander over like half of those 4-mana cycle, like Brea, Atraxa, what's the one that gives your stuff Cascade when you hit someone? I'll take Xander over Maelstrom Wielder.
Idris Maelstrom Wielder.
I'll take Xander over all of those except for I guess I would also take it over Kidios and Tyrell, because that's like a group hug card.
Kineos and Tiro.
It's also
you hate Kineos and Tiro.
Just because group hug stuff is the only reason. But yeah, I think I would take Xander as an opponent over any of those, personally.
Yeah, I'll have to keep going to the card store and see if it pops up in a couple months or whenever this new set comes out.
Actually, do you want to take a really impromptu chance to talk about Atraxa for a moment?
Oh, Atraxa, what about her?
I just wanted to say, maybe it's a hot take. I actually don't think Atraxa is that bad. I don't think it's like that oppressive or that bad. I think the reason everyone, I guess, like, the problem is like keyword soup kind of meme, where it's got like flying and lifelink and, you know, first strike or whatever. I don't remember what it has, but I don't think Atraxa is that bad.
Well, she's a casual killer, Spencer, because she beats everything in a fight.
She does win a fight, but then
she blocks everything. She attacks. She flies.
I guess the thing with Atraxa is I'm not scared that the Atraxa deck is just gonna immediately win the game. I get proliferate stuff is strong. Like, you can have like the mana rocks that get more mana, and like planeswalkers getting more things. But like, I feel like Atraxa is more of a slow, insidious killer versus like some of the cards we're seeing these days.
Yeah, no, I'm not too worried about Atraxa decks. I mean, I usually see it and you kind of you usually feel like you know what it's doing.
Yeah.
I mean, you ever see like a weird like charge counters Atraxa?
Yeah.
Like, you don't see that stuff.
The thing
really.
with Atraxa, I want to say, is like Atraxa is a commander that I can leave on the board until it becomes a problem, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
And you know when it's going to be a problem. Whereas with some of these commanders we've been seeing, I'm being a little bit vague, but I think you all can think of what I'm thinking of, or can come up with a couple if you want to think. It's like if they have one of like 5 cards in their deck, like I'm just going to lose next turn if I don't kill their commander, right? And that's or if I don't lose, like they're gonna draw 10 cards and make 10 mana or something, right? Like it's just. So I appreciate that about Atraxa and about Brea and stuff like that, where they're not like immediate win the game cards. They're just very strong and like good bodies.
Yeah.
So
I like Atraxa.
I just wanted to say that.
I like it unless I'm trying to play a combat deck.
Yeah.
And then they play Atraxa, the brick wall.
If any of you guys played against Glissa the Trader, one of our good friends, Reed, plays a pretty reasonably strong like artifact Glissa the Trader. And we're not talking no Benny Glissa the Trader, Benny Smith. Do you want to tell that story, Eli? So I'll start, okay? Then you can go in. I'll give you the stage. So
bullying warning.
Bullying warning. The professor, 3 or 4 years back or something, did a video. You can look this video up. It's online. It's Benny Smith. It's
a Glissa deck tech.
It's a deck tech of Benny, the author of the Commander book.
The man who wrote the book on Commander.
He did a deck tech on his Glissa deck, right? Sharing all the cool cards and stuff. And there's a specific card in that deck that I think, and we're not trying to do super bully, but like, Eli, you want to share this card that's in that deck?
Well, you watching the video, you're like, okay, these seem like some pretty reasonable cards. Like maybe some things are a little not what I would play, but whatever. And then all of a sudden, Professor, he's like shouting out specific cards because these deck techs, if you watched them, it's not like he's listing every single card in the deck. So I wonder if the Professor was like trying to like subtly like throw some shade by like putting this into the script. But he's going through, and then the card Sylvok Lifestaff comes onto screen. The Professor starts talking about it, and if you don't know the card Sylvok Lifestaff, it's a 1-mana equipment, 1 to equip. It gives the equipped creature +1/+0, and whenever equipped creature dies, I believe you gain 3 life.
I believe it's 3.
And the Professor says something like, this gives our commander like a much needed power boost and also gives us some additional life gain. and you watch the video and you're like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's Glissa the Trader. Like,
she has First Strike and Death Touch. What does she need power for?
What's she need 1 more power for? Like, what? To turn your commander damage from a 7 turn to a 6 turn?
Into a 6 turn, yeah.
Oh my god.
And at that time, when commanders died, you didn't even gain life.
Yeah, so half of that... So it's literally like being like, you should play a 1-mana equipment that gives a creature +1/+0. And I don't know if maybe, if you look closer at the deck, maybe there's something about sacrificing other creatures and...
like mirrors and stuff.
But seems suspect
to me. So this is just like... So we're saying... Our boy Reed, he doesn't play no Sylvok Lifestaff Glissa. He plays like
he's
good cards Glissa.
He's playing the heaters, yeah.
Yeah. So the whole point of bringing this up, I'm sorry, was just that if you ever played against a Glissa the Trader deck, that fucking girl is like a combat killer. Like that card, like you cannot ever fight that in combat. It's impossible. It will win every fight versus anything without double strike or first strike.
You gotta call in the Air Force.
Yeah, you have the Air Force.
You gotta fucking bomb the whole place because. You gotta bomb the scrapyard.
And it really sucks that our friend Reed's Glissa, like kind of like artifact synergy combo deck, just gets to have this insane blocker that you can never attack with a ground creature.
It's 3 mana one too.
Like 3 mana never can attack a ground creature into it.
Yeah.
But that's just a little bit of a rant.
We love those commanders.
Yeah. So very based.
Well, yeah, I want to apologize to him. Maybe I'll put out a tweet about this, but we did miss our 2nd episode last month, and it's unfortunate. I've been a little bit busy with school, and we just didn't get around to it. The last month went by so fast. Mm-hmm. I feel like this whole year is going by fast.
We may or may not make it up by doing 2 more this month. Maybe not. We'll see.
We're planning on it. I mean, I think at least I would like to do 2 more. Might be a little bit shorter ones. I think that's okay sometimes. Mm-hmm. But this was a fun episode to talk about, and I'll keep going to the game shop because that's a good way to get inspiration and think of stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to find more ways to play. I don't play enough Magic. I might try to set up like maybe a spell table thing. It's a little bit hard for me. The setup is a little bit difficult. Not because I'm not like a tech genius, because I am, of course, but I just don't have access to a good play surface with a camera nearby. But I think that'd be fun. Maybe try playing some spell table every once in a while.
Yeah, I played a little Magic online a few weeks ago over spring break.
Fun.
Yeah, it's fun. Well, yeah. This has been EDH Takes.
Yeah.
Follow us on Twitter at EDH Takes. Subscribe to us. If we could get 500 subscribers by the end of the month,
then I will release the episode that is chained up in my basement.
There you go.
There you go.
Chained up right next to Murph, right?
Right next to Murph in our basement.
Yeah. Thank you guys for listening. Yeah, give it a like, give us a comment. What you think might be some casual killers. What you think of Lord Xander the Collector. And anything else you want to say. If you want to say you guys are bad people for not putting out that second episode last month.
If you want to make fun of us for bullying the professor and Benny, that's okay. By the way, go check out the professor's Kickstarter. 8 days left as of today, their day of recording. So if you want to get that box, I hope that makes up for everything I said.
Yeah, vote for deck box.
F.
F, yes.
Yes. The pink
right.
one. All right, bye, guys.
Thanks for listening.